Okay, take three. Today is March 1st, 2020, Sunday, and this is the third time I'm trying to record this. The first time I went up to Hobble Creek Canyon, which is becoming my favorite place to record. And due to some phone issues, it decided to delete the file. Then I tried again, ran into some other phone issues, so this is my third time. Now, as you notice, I'm probably not in a place you guys have seen before right now. I'm actually up in South Jordan with my brother and sister-in-law. You could probably hear some kids in the background as we're getting together for a family get-together. And they have graciously allowed me to steal one of their rooms to try and record this. So, some quick updates. I actually got to the forge this Saturday, and actually had a lot of fun, and was actually quite surprised. I thought I was going to spend most of the time just trying to remember how to swing a hammer, let alone actually make anything functional. But as I was playing around, all of a sudden, I grabbed a piece of medium carbon rebar, and I actually made a knife. An old style eating knife, the one with a little bulb at the end. And in the matter of a couple of hours, I was able to knock out all the rough forging. Now, I have a lot of finish work to do on it. But, like I said, I managed to knock out all of the rough forging in a couple of hours. Considering I haven't been into the forge in months, I was actually quite surprised. Pleasantly surprised, obviously. And as that went, it just kind of reminded me how much I love forging, And so that actually went really well. I'll see if I can't maybe get some pictures up. I already put some pictures up on my Instagram page, Ironfound Metalworks. And I'll see if I can maybe hijack my wife into splicing him into this video. But that actually went really, really well, and I've already made plans to be there pretty much every week now. And I'm going to be there as much as possible, trying to develop those skills. Because while I've gone to school for welding, and I am grateful to have those skills, I am by no means master welder at anything, but my pieces usually actually do stick together. But I didn't get the same passion out of it as I do blacksmithing. And so I want to use my welding to assist my blacksmithing. But I really do kind of want to focus on my blacksmithing. Some other things. I was listening to a podcast called Wolf and Iron. And I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted by all the kids playing right outside the door. But it is what it is. And, what as I said in my last ones, just keep going. You're never going to have the perfect scenario, so just keep going. And I'm trying to live up to that. Take my own advice. Anyway, as I was listening to this podcast once again, Wolf and Iron. And it's a podcast mainly directed towards men. Men who are trying to be better men. And I actually have a couple of those I listen to. Wolf and Iron being one of them. The Art of Manliness is a good one, though it's more about educating yourself. Another one that I really like is The Order of Man. But anyway, in this Truck Talk Thursday, which is a type of podcast he does where he's on his way to a coffee shop. And so to use that time, he records a small podcast, just him talking about what whatever's on his mind. Kind of like how I do in a video form this, he does in a podcast form. And he was talking about an experience he had where he went down to a convention and ended up talking with someone. And they started talking about a topic that this other speaker had talked about before, but had really interested him. It's called your band of brothers. And the importance of for men to have a band of brothers. And I'm going to expand this because I really think it's vital for women to have a band of sisters. Men and women are different. I don't think I'm surprising anyone when these days maybe I am surprising some people when I say things like that. But we think differently, we process differently. We usually, at least traditionally, will have different roles in the house. And, even in the most progressive house, you'll have, or one partner is better at certain things and tends to do certain things. And the other partner is better at other things. Well, very much, men and women, my wife is my best friend. I love her dearly, and she is one of those people who does whatever she can to always be there for me. And she's been there to pick me up when I am on the ground. She's propped me up when I'm feeling weak. And I try to do the same for her. But there is a difference, when I talk to her versus when I talk to, like, Matt. And, Matt has a lot of the same experiences I do, and a lot of the same way of thinking that I do, a lot of the same values. Not exactly, but close enough. He also has a teenage daughter who's about 1 year younger than mine. And so we can talk about things, and we connect, and we understand each other in a way that not even my wife can. Now, my wife understands me in ways that Matt can, just because, she has to live with me. And I'm not always the easiest person to live with. You just ask my wife. I am sure she'll tell you. Well, maybe not. We're also both a big believer in not airing dirty laundry, which is one of the reasons why you'll never see me complaining about specifics or anything like that on here when it comes to my family, especially my wife, and almost to the same extent my daughter. But I am going to try and be open with you guys, and I think I have put out stuff that, honestly, I never thought I would ever put out on a public platform like YouTube. Anyway, getting back down to it, it's the example that he used, and I think this covers the surface of it, but the example that this speaker used is, let's say you are out of town, like across the country, and you get a phone call. It's 3 a.m. and your house is on fire. Everyone's out and safe, but in my case, it would be my wife and my daughter. Your family is out on the street watching the house burn while the fire department is trying to save what they can. Do you have someone that you can call at 3 a.m. in the morning that would be there, that would get up, go over there, and help take care of whatever needs to be taken care of? And not only someone who would be willing to get up and go, but who you can trust, And honestly, I have several people in my life that I feel like that. Matt, Danny, all of, you know, I refer to them, I almost never refer to them as my in-laws. I know I did at the beginning of this video, but I almost never refer to them as my in-laws. And I don't think of them as my in-laws. I think of them as my brothers, my sisters, my mom, my dad. And not only could I call on them and that they would get up and they would go and do whatever needed to be done and take care of my family, but I trust them to do it. And on my part, I'm trying to make sure that I am the type of person that not only could they call me and I would get up and I would take care of whatever needed to be taken care of, but also to make sure I'm someone that they can trust with their wife, with their kids, with whatever, whatever they need to trust me with. There was a saying I heard, not in the military, but in JROTC, that supposedly came from the military. And it was, trust me with your life, not your money or your wife. That does not fly with me. I want to be the person that you can trust, with your wife, with your money, with whatever. And, I have people that I will trust, both with my life, with my money, with my wife, with my daughter, and who would get up at, any hour and come and help if I really needed it. I'm also the stubborn fool who, as much as possible would avoid making that call. Because I probably have a little bit more pride and a little bit more stubbornness, and is healthy for me. Once again, ask my wife. But that's, it got me thinking, and that's always a good thing. And that's what I love about these podcasts, is it gets you thinking. It's like, okay, do I have this in my life? Okay, what if I do I have enough of it? And what can I do to shore it up? And in this case, can I provide that to someone else? And I really like that. And it was really good food for thought. And, anyways, kind of going on. As far as books, I've been listening to a new book. It's called We Want You to Be Rich by Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki. Now, this was written long before Trump became president, long before he got involved in politics. And, no matter what you think of the guy personally, whatever you think about him as a president, etc., there are things he does that I like, and there's things he does that I don't. But when it comes to making money, I think he's a good person to listen to. Yes, he has lost a lot of money, but he has made it all back and then some. Robert Kiyosaki, freely admits, I've lost a lot of money. I've made it, but he's made it all back and then some. In the book it talks about how, at least at the point where this was written, Robert Kiyosaki was, a millionaire, and Trump was a billionaire. And, you don't get to say those types of things and actually have people take you seriously, unless you know what you're doing, And Jack Spirko from the Survival Podcast, he has a story. He had an uncle who, was very successful in business. But I think he had gone through 3 or more divorces. And his father came to him and said, when Uncle so-and-so, if he gives you some advice on business, listen to it. he knows what he's talking about. But if he gives you advice on relationships, you might want to forget it as soon as you hear it. That's not the type of man you want to be taking relationship advice from. And when it comes to people like Trump, who operate in several spheres, in this case, he ran and became the president of the United States. Like it or not, he did it. And, do I think he is, a paragon of the virtues that I espouse as far as, his moral character? No. you know, but I think he's good at business. And so, I might not necessarily take advice from him on how to be a moral man. But I'm definitely going to listen to him when it comes to business stuff. Even if I don't apply what he says exactly, I'm going to listen. And with this book, if you're willing to get past, the politics and how you might feel about either one of these characters, I think Robert Kiyosaki is a much less controversial. Though I've heard people badmouth him, but of course, you put your name out. The only reason I don't have more people badmouthing me is because I'm not a big enough fish for people to notice me yet. And yes, I said yet. I know it's coming. But this book, once again, is called We Want You to Be Rich. It's not a how-to on how to become rich. They're not going to outlie business strategies or anything like that. What they are going to do is they're going to talk to you about the way they think and the difference between the way rich people think, how they look at opportunities to say, is this an opportunity or is it not? And is this an opportunity that's for me or not? And if you look at it in that light, I think you can get a lot from it. I've already gotten a lot from it. And just looking at how they think is so much more valuable than, okay, here's a business plan. Because you know what? They both made their money in real estate, commercial real estate. That's not something I'm particularly interested in. Yeah, I'd love to own some houses that I rent out, but that's not my passion. That's not what I want to build my life around. And if I were to just follow that business pattern, the ones that they used, yeah, I could probably make a lot of money, but I wouldn't be as fulfilled as I am swinging a hammer. And so, learning how they think, learning how they look at opportunities, and learning about the difference of, okay, you know what? There are, they talk about the different types, 3 different types of investors, and the way they think, the pros, the cons, and they say all 3 types of investors can make a lot of money. But knowing that and looking at it and say, okay, what type of investor am I? What kind of investor do I want to be? And then Robert Kiyosaki gets into his cash flow quadrant a little bit. He has apparently an entire book about this I'm going to check out. But, that cash flow quadrant is like, okay, so you have employees, you have small business owners, you have big business owners, and you have investors. Where do you fall in there? And he points out, one of the examples he used is Thomas Edison, the inventor of General Electric, or the founder of General Electric, was, a big business owner. He took that company and had a ton of employees and turned it into this huge thing. Well, later on, so he was in the big business quadrant. Later on, he turned it over, and the other person who he turned it over to, I forgot the name, was an employee, and fell into the employee quadrant. Still made a lot of money. But, to look at it and say, okay, where are you most comfortable? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages? And that's one of the things I think is so important that I am learning more and more and having to do more and more is, I can give you the best map of an area. you know. And all you have to do is look at a map in a store, a shopping mall map. You know, they all have something in common. They all have a thing in there that says, you are here. In life, you don't necessarily get quite so clear about you are here. You have to look around and say, okay, well, there's that store, there's that store. And say, okay, so now I find it on the map and say, okay, now I know where I am. I could hand you the best map. If you don't know where you are, it's not going to help you get anywhere until you figure out where you are. And unlike in a department store where I can look over and say, okay, well, there's Macy's, there's Sharper Image isn't even a thing anymore. There's GMC, there's, this store, that store. And I can figure it out a little bit easier. You actually have to do some triangulation. And actually figure out where you are. And then you have to look at that map and figure out, okay, you know what? I'm going to have to go cross country, Okay, am I more set up? Do I have, a truck? Well, if I'm on a truck, I need, preferably paved roads, but even dirt roads have to be something I can pass with the truck. Do I have a horse? I can't go as fast on a horse, but I can go through more different terrain than I can with a truck. Am I on foot? And then you start taking a look at, okay, what am I best suited for? What is the best path for me to get from where I am, now that I know where I am, and now that I take an inventory of what tools I have available? What is the best path? Even if that is, I'm going to walk, because right now all I have are my 2 feet. I'm going to walk to town, and I'm going to do what I need to get a truck, or to get a horse, or to get whatever, Take this analogy wherever you want. But, to figure out, what I need to do to get where I want to go. And so, and that's the beauty of the podcasts I've been listening to, the books I've been reading. Do I agree with everything? And said, no. Oh, no, I don't agree with a lot of things. But it makes me think. And I say, okay, I don't agree with this. So, one, is this podcast actually helpful? Yes, actually it is. Okay, so I've learned some things. Even if I didn't learn directly from the podcast, I learned by evaluation. I'm like, okay, do I agree with this? No. Why don't I agree with this? Okay, does that actually hold water? Just another thing that most they don't teach anymore. My daughter came into my life when she was 8, and I would ask her something, and she'd say X, and I'd say, oh, well, why do you believe X? And she could just go, it's my opinion. Okay, that's all well and good. Why is it your opinion? It's my opinion. If it's my opinion, it can't be wrong. Needless to say, I squashed that real quick. And I'm like, I don't care if it's your opinion. I don't care if I don't agree with your opinion. But you need to know why you believe it. Does it hold water? And they don't teach that anymore. Draw your own conclusions to why. But, everything is, oh, it's my opinion, therefore you can't say anything against it. Bull. And I have had a lot of my own beliefs questioned and drawn out. And I've had to look. And you know what? Some of my beliefs, I said, no, my flag is planted here. I know why I believe it. And come hell or high water, I am not moving until something comes along that actually changes my belief that this is a hill to die on. And other ones I've taken a look at and gone, no, this doesn't hold water. This belief system that I have, this opinion that I have, this fact that I thought I knew isn't true. It doesn't hold up. And so, I've had to let it go. Alright, well, this has been rambling enough, and I am getting messages that it's time for actual family time and not me sitting in front of a camera anymore. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. So I hope you guys get something useful out of this. And go out and crush this week. Findyson out.